Now, can I move back to Professor Adebanji Akintoye? Professor Akintoye is an academic, a historian, a writer, former president of the Yoruba World Congress. Professor, if he's still with you, I say welcome to the program this evening, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tony has made the case, but just to emphasize an area of our case. When we entered into the Nigerian Federation in the 1950s, as a result of very careful negotiation over time by our leaders and the leaders of the North and the leaders of all the peoples of Nigeria, our deliberate decision, our well-considered decision was that we were going to enter as a federation. And there were regions, and the ethnic groups in each region were agreeing together to subscribe the sovereignty of their region to the Federation of Nigeria. That's what we agreed to. The result is that each region had its own constitution. Each region had its coat of arms. Each region had its own flag. Each region was in control. Each region controlled its resources, took its own development decisions, implemented its own development decisions, and even had a representative in London called the High Commissioner for the region, who was responsible for the external relations of the region outside of Nigeria. So that is the arrangement. Under that arrangement, everybody knows that our regions made considerable progress because they were free to do what they wanted to do. But since 1962, gradually, I mentioned 1962 because that's the time that the first assault was made on the regions, on the Western region. And it has gotten worse and worse and worse. So that by 1999, all of the changes that have been included in the Constitution of Nigeria progressively towards centralizing everything were now put together in the Constitution called the 1999 Constitution. And apparently because the people who put that Constitution together knew that it could never have passed through any sort of review by the people of Nigeria, any sort of approval by the peoples of Nigeria. They decided to do it secretly on their own. And then they decided to impose it upon all the peoples of Nigeria by a decree. And so that people may not know how the Constitution came into being, they wrote an instruction in that decree that whenever the Constitution is published, is printed, the decree must not be printed with it. Unfortunately, the printers printed the decree with it, even with the instruction that it may not be printed. So we know now, and the whole of Nigeria knows, the whole of the world now knows, that this is what has happened to us. So we are living under an arrangement that we never subscribed to, that we never approved of, that we never endorsed. And the result is that the Constitution of 1999 has created a situation in which the federal government is in control of everything. Just one example of very significant, not just one example. All the powers, responsibilities, and duties of government in Nigeria are divided into 98 headings: education, transportation, resource control, police, military, etc., etc. Everything, 98 different items. Of those 98 items, 68 were made to be exclusive, to be under exclusive federal authority. Out of 98. In the 1950s Constitution, the powers of the state of the regions were so much that they could do whatever they wanted in their regions. And it is they who agreed how much authority they were going to give to the federal government. Now, in the 1999 Constitution, it is the makers of the 1999 Constitution that now decide that almost all powers in Nigeria would belong to the federal government and had the earning to the region. So they decided 68 of the 98 items of power and influence and authority in Nigeria shall belong to the federal government, and the remaining 30 will belong to the federal government and the states together. So that, for instance, the federal government is in charge of security. The state government is also in charge of security. But if the authority of the state conflicts with that of the federal government in any of these 30 items, the states must bow out, and the authority of the federal government must be supreme, must take over. So that in effect, the federal government is in charge of all the 98 items, and the state governments really have no exclusive authority in anything. The result is that we have governors, state governments that are essentially impotent entities. We have governors who are constantly running to Abuja, who must live upon Abuja in order to finance their government. We have state governments that have very little authority on development. And so you will find that in many of the cases in Nigeria, there is very little that the state government can do. I will one clear example in the past 3 or 4 weeks. The Fulani are invading the Middle Belt and the South in a massive way. And in the South, they have developed this strategy of putting themselves together in the deepest forests. And from there, within 24 hours, the federal government countermanded that. And they said, Governor Akeredolu doesn't have exclusive authority to make such a declaration, such an order. And that he should have first of all cleared with the federal government, because the federal government also has responsibility for security in Ondo State. And in the end, thank God for the bravery of Governor Akeredolu. He did not rush to go and abrogate his declaration, but he has held on doggedly. 2 years ago, or less than 2 years ago, we, the people of the Western region, thought that all this Fulani something, it would be wrong for us to just ask our people, go defend your land, all you young people, come vigilante in the bush and defend your land, and so on. That would be disorderly. We Yoruba are not a disorderly people. So we advised our governors, create an agency, a regional agency that would train people who will be ordered and commanded in an orderly fashion to resist the Fulani terrorism in our rural areas. So they created something they called Amotekun.
Okay, Prof.
Before stepped in to say immediately that it is illegal.
Prof,
and
before you
everything since then to make sure that Amotekun is heavily compromised.
Prof, if you can hear me, before you dive in more into the regional security outfit, let me piggyback something here, Prof. You've basically said how we got where we are today. Question is, now the constitutional force majeure that I talked about with Mr. Tony Nadi, what's your view of that constitutional force majeure? Do you think it's going to have any impact? Or if at all, what is the significance of the constitutional force majeure in your view, Professor?
We entered into the Nigerian Federation and willingly submitted, contributed our sovereignty, our resources, our people, our land, and so on. But now it is no longer a federation. And we are no longer able to perform in the country in the way we had been able to perform when it was a federation. We are no longer independent people performing under the Constitution of Nigeria. We have become a series of enslaved peoples. And therefore, the force majeure thing is that we are no longer able to perform the duties that we are supposed to be able to perform under the Constitution. And therefore, we are no longer, for instance, people are coming and killing our people. We cannot even make rules locally to drive them out of our land. They say they are entitled to be in our land as a result of this constitution. So we have come out now to say, okay, listen, you say we submitted our sovereignty to this federation under this constitution. We didn't, we never did. You said we submitted our people to this country under this constitution. We never did. You said we submitted our resources to this federation, to this country under this constitution. We never did. You said we contributed our everything to the Nigerian Federation under this constitution. We never did. There is a dispute between us and the Nigerian state, and the dispute is clear. Therefore, we ask, because we are civilized people and we want to be orderly, we did not simply declare, oh, we are gone. No, we didn't. We said, okay, let us create room so that we can talk about this together. And we give 90 days for us to talk about it. That is very orderly, very sensible. And we have filed this with the Nigerian state. We have filed it with the United Nations. And the United Nations is taking cognizance of it. And so it is no longer a question of Yoruba, Igbo, etc., etc. It is now the international community are interested in how this is resolved. So nobody can just jump up and begin to do whatever they like. The federal government cannot just now arise and begin to invade our land, because there is a dispute between us and them. There is a dispute. It's not that we have declared that we are no longer part of Nigeria, out of hand. We have declared that we have proclaimed a dispute with them, and they needed to work with us to resolve the dispute. If they do not resolve the dispute, that will be their fault. It will not be our fault.
Prof, if you can hear me now, my question to you directly will be, Prof, assuming the Nigerian government, because on the 16th of December is when this was done, I believe the 14th, sometime next week is going to be the 90 days. Now, if the Nigerian government does absolutely nothing, if they say, well, there is nothing you can do about it, what happens?
What happens if they don't do anything about it after this?
If they don't do anything, there is nothing they have to do. It is we who must decide what we want to do.
So what do you do then? Prof, now that I have you, you once said that the Yoruba people are only agitating for freedom, but never demanded the breakup of Nigeria. Now, if they are demanding for freedom, but they are not demanding for the breakup of Nigeria, Prof, I will ask you, sir, how can you make an omelette without breaking eggs?
No, I have always said that historically, the Yoruba people arrived in Nigeria in 1914 as a people already with a very strong tradition of political freedom. We are the only people in the world who insist upon electing our kings in kingdoms, in monarchical systems worldwide. When the king dies, his son, usually his first son or daughter or whatever, takes it, and the people have no voice in the matter. But our ancestors somehow put an arrangement together that though we recognize a royal family and the king is going to come from that royal family, it is the prerogative of us, their people, to select one of them as our next king. That is an unusual thing. We are a democratic people. And we are the Yoruba people who say, you cannot exclude any person from discussion in Yoruba land. It is not possible. Even when there is conflict and you are fighting and snapping at one another, the elders there will tell you, listen to him too. You can throw out what he says by your own argument, but you cannot throw him out. He's one of us here. Both of you are among our children. So that is the Yoruba way of life. We are a very strongly democratic people. And that's why the Yoruba person is so sure of his self-worth, very much sure of his self-worth. So we are a democratic people. But we have been put in this country in which democracy is not a strong factor at all, and in which the democratic principles have been gradually whittled down until we have now come to a situation in which a section of the country claims the right to go out and kill the rest of the country. So we've never asked that we want to leave Nigeria. We've never done so, but now it has reached a point that for anybody to come and tell the Yoruba people today, my brothers, let us stay in Nigeria, he will find that he is alone and he might be in danger from being alone. The Yoruba people have at last decided that, well, we have seen enough. You hear Yoruba people saying everywhere, Otoge, we have made all the contributions we can make. We have contributed enormously to the making of Nigeria. We have been the promoters of education, the promoters of modernization, the promoters of everything that can advance the quality of life of the people of Nigeria. But we've done enough now. It is time for us to go and do it for ourselves in our own separate country, outside of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Now, before I am accused of misquoting you, let me reaffirm the following, Prof. You basically, in the last interview where I picked this argument from was in 2020, where you said that the Yorubas were not moving towards breaking Nigeria. But from what you've just said this evening, if the Yorubas will now seek self-determination from Nigeria, doesn't that invariably mean breaking up of Nigeria the way we know it today, Prof?
It does mean breaking up of Nigeria.
The Nigeria defined by the 1999
Yeah, the Nigeria is defined by 1919 Constitution.
Exactly. So we can,
we would rather break up the Nigeria of the 1999 Constitution than remain in it.
Okay, so it would be fair if the journalists, I know many of them here this evening, if tomorrow the headline is that you've been quoted as saying that the Yorubas, if the current trend continues, will break up the federation as defined by the 1999 Constitution. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, I have said that. What I have said is this.
Okay,
we
thank
Yoruba
you.
have never spoken out to say that we want to break out of Nigeria. Now we are saying it out loud. We have seen enough. That's what I'm saying now.
Thank you very much.
If I may put it differently, moderator. We're talking about the right to self-determination. The current constitution of Nigeria was done in negation and defiance of our right to self-determination, of the right of the constituent components to self-determination. And that right is inalienable. Now, there is an instrument from the UN. I want us to pay close attention. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. I can inform us here now that soon, immediately after the PRONAPO processes that ended in August of 2006, and we had a draft that would have taken us back to being a federation. The next thing we were concerned with was how to take down, to ease out the 1999 Constitution. We didn't want any commotion. All the people who were waving Biafra flag and Odua flag and shooting all over the place and breaking pipelines, we were the ones who prevailed on them to say, look, let us put an orderly process into it. And we went to the places of decision making between New York, UN headquarters, and the US and some other countries that had stakes here, to explain to them what we were rejecting, what we were complaining about, and that it has become a question of life and death. And so the remedy to the bondage we are in, the remedy to the enslavement we are suffering in our ancestral space is called self-determination. What the Prof is saying is that the Yoruba has come to the point where having tried everything else to get the Nigeria working, but those who insist they are born to rule others, insist on their feudal worldview, insist on Sharia, insist on rejection of union of equal partnership. El-Rufai actually said it on national TV that we cannot expect to be in the union of equal partnership with them in terms of they having conquered the rest of us. And our sovereignty has been compromised on a scale that has now become an existential threat. We saw the governor in Bauchi that turned around to say to us that Fulani from all over Africa belong to Nigeria. We saw our borders that were thrown open by Fulani elements, including the president of Nigeria, to receive them from everywhere. And we saw them pouring in. During the COVID-19 lockdown, we saw the number of them that came and ended up on the shores in Port Harcourt and Lagos and all kinds of southern places. And we were wondering, who was enforcing this lockdown? Why are these people able to pass in these numbers? So you see an orchestration with what Bala Mohammed confirmed to us about Fulani belonging here. Our charge, what we have laid before the international community, and I was privileged to have been the one that went to Capitol Hill to tell the senators and the House members who were conducting inquiries into what was happening in Nigeria. And we made it clear to them that our sovereignty has been compromised on a scale that has become too much danger for us to continue to endure. Our borders have been thrown open, and those people who came in are actually killing off people in communities. Whole communities are wiped out, and we see populations of Fulani. Even the government had admitted it severally, that the people killing people are Fulani from outside. El-Rufai said he had gone to 14 different countries to pay them money. Listen to our own side of the story. So the matter has gone past where we can be talking about diplomatic or sounding, what do they call, political correctness. The raw situation is that our sovereignty has been compromised. The constitution by which Nigeria is defined today has made us slaves in our land, worse than apartheid constitution. And we have endured it sufficiently long. In fact, it was imposed in 1979 by the same process. The military, having overrun everybody from 1967, that they toppled the federation we had, broke down the 4 regions that had autonomy into 12 states. That was how we came into the unitarism we're rejecting now. It is unitary Nigeria that we're rejecting. Let it be made clear. The unitary Nigeria defined by 1999 Constitution imposed on all of us. And if after waiting for 21 years, those who are clinging onto it to tie us down and kill us to take the space are not listening, I tell you, we are discussing right to self-determination that is now being activated by the owners of the sovereignties that have been hijacked.
And please let me add this. Please let me add this.
Please go ahead, Prof.
as long as the argument over centralization, restructuring, constitutional reform, etc., remained at the political level, it was still possible for the Yoruba nation to stay in it, and because we think we can argue better than other people. But there's no longer a political situation. This is a situation of war. A section of Nigeria has declared war on the other sections of Nigeria. The war is going on. That is not a matter of conjecture or argument or intellectualization. There is no intellectualism involved in this. It's the raw fact that we are under invasion, that our people are being killed, that our farmers are abandoning farms altogether, that in some parts of our Yoruba land, people have fled their villages and have formed a refugee community in another country. It has never happened in the history of the Yoruba people. And should we stay in this federation just to keep a federation going and let our people continue to suffer these things? The answer is no. It is not a question of intellectual argument at all. It is not a question of political correctness. This is a question of survival. We Yoruba are faced with an existential threat, and we have decided that we will not continue to suffer that existential threat. The Yoruba nation has determined to live, and we will live. It's simple. It's as simple as that.
Now, Prof.
I need to make a few more things clear.
Go ahead, Prof.
We are faced with a war that can go on, according to the people who have declared it, for hundreds of years to come. They have said again and again and again that this war that has started, they are ready to go on prosecuting it until they have driven us off from our land or exterminated us. We don't want to wait for that. And none of the peoples in the alliance, the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, wants to stay until we are exterminated. That's one thing. On January 1, 2018, the Fulani went and destroyed many villages in Benue State and killed almost 80 people. And the leaders of the other parts of Nigeria, the indigenous parts of Nigeria, Yoruba, Igbo, South, and so on, decided to go and send a delegation to go and commiserate with Benue State. Then when we had delivered our message, a crowded hall, which the governor had assembled, the Governor Tom said, well, thank you very much for your coming, but I have more to tell you about what is happening. It looks like more danger is heading towards us in the Middle Belt, in Benue State, than has happened now. So he drew out a letter written by the same people who had the same Fulani group that had written the letter to threaten the massacre of January 1. And the letter said, Mr. Governor, we see that you are mourning, your people are mourning, you are doing mass burials and so on, but it's just the beginning. Bigger things are going to come to you. And the reason from us, and the reason that is happening is that the ethnic groups in Benue State believe that the land on which they live is their land, that they think so because they have been living in it for thousands of years, that they are wrong, that it is not theirs. It now belongs to us, Fulani, and we have a reason to take it, and we will kill, maim, destroy in order to take it. We have accumulated money and military resources for a long drawn-out war. And we have asked all our people in the rest of West Africa to come and join us to fight the war. And we are not talking of the people of Benue State alone. We are talking of all the peoples of Nigeria, the Yoruba, the Igbo, whatever. And that it is all our land. Nigeria is our land. Allah has given it to us. So we are now on our way to taking it, and we are going to fight and fight and fight until we take it. And if you think your federal government can deliver you from our hands, you are deceiving yourself. This is a war we are ready to continue to fight for many, many, many years to come. So as far as the Yoruba people are concerned, Nigeria is now a land in which a war is going to be going on for many centuries to come. And we don't want to be part of that. We are a civilized people, a civilization building people. And we don't want to belong to a country in which there will be war going on for the next 100 years or more, or many hundred years. No, we don't want to. And I'm sure that the other peoples in the alliance, NINAS, do not want to belong to that type of country.
Okay.
We are living because we have to live. That's it. We have to live in order to protect ourselves. It is not a question of we are living because we don't hate the Fulani. We don't hate the Fulani. I know that we Yoruba don't hate anybody. But we don't want to be in a country in which there will be war forever. No. That is not the choice. That's not the destiny of the Yoruba nation. 2 years ago, an explosion occurred between young men and some young men in the Sabo, that's the Hausa Fulani community, and many people died. So the leadership of the Yoruba held a quick meeting and said, we must go there. Yoruba people don't attack foreigners on their land. And so we went and we held a meeting with the Yoruba, the Ife people in the hall, appealed to them. We are Yoruba, our tradition is one of hospitality and so on and so forth. Then they urged us to go and speak to the Fulani, Hausa Fulani in Sabo, and we went there to speak to the Hausa Fulani, and we spoke the language of friendship and so on. Then their leader, who is a Fulani man, then answered us. Now please listen. Let every Yoruba person anywhere in the world listen to this. It's very important. He then answered, started by speaking, by answering us in the tone in which we had spoken, nice, friendly, everything. But then he came to the core of what he needed to, what he wanted to communicate to us. He said, God is the owner of all land. All land belongs to God. In the beginning of time, God gave to your father Oduduwa the land on which you now live and you call Yoruba land. But God has never abdicated ownership of the land. It is still God's land. And God can still give it to another people. Yeah, that's what he told him. God is still the owner of the land, and God can take the land from you, Yoruba people, and give it to another people. We are dealing with serious existential threats here, and we don't want to stay in it. Another factor. The Fulani are conducting themselves now in such a way that if care is not taken, the Fulani will become the enemy of large numbers of different ethnic groups all over the place, and people will be hunting Fulani and so on. Whether they are dangerous or not, they will all be regarded as dangerous. We Yoruba don't want to be part of that type of headhunting. We don't want to be. The Yoruba nation will never be in a country in which people are being hunted.
Okay, Prof.
So that is it. So for these many reasons, we Yoruba want to get out now.
Okay.